Hello and welcome to the test element of this mini series. So something in the last video really connected with you. Something in the last video made you feel like, yeah, that is me. So in this part, what we're going to do is take that further. We're going to try and deepen into the detail of that. Because for far too long, we have probably been swimming around in the outskirts of this, trying to heal it, getting exhausted, calling ourselves an imposter, all of that stuff. So what I wanted to do in this video is, yes, I want to do the test, but I want to take a moment to introduce the idea of primary pain and secondary pain for you and help us contextualize the test that we're about to do. So primary pain for me obviously is root cause. It is the reason that we do what we do. It's the reason that we have the behaviors we have. It's the reason that we have procrastination. It's the reason that we have anxiety. It's the reason that we have depression. It's the reason that we have imposter syndrome. Primary pain often is, well, not often, always, is at the root cause of a lot of the material that we try to heal. So when we try to heal this outer secondary pain material, we try to heal it with things that can never move it. They may build confidence, they may build knowledge, they may build more understanding of your client base, they may build self-care, they may build self-esteem. But because we're not working in a primary pain focused way, all that we do is create another product of the primary pain itself. And that is often the cycle that we get into. So I want you to really think about the difference between your primary pain and your secondary pain. And a lot of you at this stage may not even know what your primary pain is, but I hope that the test will bring some clarity on that so that you can assess what exactly is happening, why you have imposter syndrome, what is at the heart of it. So without further ado, let me introduce the idea of the test. We have three elements of the test: test A, test B, test C. What's really, really, really interesting about this test is that it doesn't take much. All that you need to do is say yes or no. All that you need is pen and a bit of paper. What we have done for you is we've put the documentation underneath this video to keep it really succinct, so that if you're visually led, then you can read along with the documentation. But if you like just listening and following along, you can do that too. So we've three tests, A, B, and C. A has primarily one question. Test B has two questions. And test 3 has a series of questions, but it's actually trying to find the one root cause problem. So test A, test B, test C. Test A, one question, test B, two questions, test 3, one question with a lot of detail in it. Are we ready? Have you got your pen? Have you got your paper? Are we ready? So let's do test A first. And it's just right below this video, to my left, your right as you're looking at it. It is clearly marked test A. Test A asks the question of, do you have a reoccurring emotional pattern that speaks to your lack, that speaks about your not enoughness, that whispers in the dark or roars out of it about your not enough? There's something missing. You're not the same. You're less than. So what I'm really trying to get you to do here is I'm really trying to get you to pay particular attention to the language patterns. All primary pain core wounds have particular features. They have a particular language pattern. They have a particular somatic pattern, a particular emotional pattern. Sometimes they have a nervous system activation that will come from that. So in test A, what I'm asking you to answer is, do you have a reoccurring pattern, a reoccurring language pattern that speaks specifically to your less than-ness, your lack, your not enoughness? Now note that the language changed. Note that I'm not using not enough, because in my world, in my understanding of this material, not enough is never enough. I'm really just trying to get you to top level. This is only the top level of assessment. Top level, understand, is it a lack wound? Is it a very specific, what I would call lack primary pain wound? And is it shouting and roaring about your lack? Is it shouting and roaring about your not enoughness? Is it shouting and roaring about you're not the same as? Is it deep in felt sense? Is it somatically sore and painful? Does it lie in a certain part of your body with the utmost pain? Does it take you out of the game? Does it take you out of your natural, normal process? Does it wind you? Does it take you out of the now? Does it take you out of what you want to do? Does it derail you? Does it put you into a tailspin? So does this lack wound put you into a bit of a tailspin? Is it emotionally heavy? And is it very, very familiar? Have you had this for a very, very, very long time? And have you tried to heal it with the usual NLP, the usual affirmations, the usual self-confidence, the usual stuff that we have all been taught to heal this with? And has it not been healed? Has it come back? So I want you just to answer yes to those or no to those. If it is a no, then we move on to test B. And if it is a yes, we still move on to test B, but at least we're now beginning to understand the details of what we're dealing with. So I'll give you a moment. And we'll move on to test B. Test B is, do you have a reoccurring emotional pattern that has its own specific details, that doesn't speak of lack, that speaks of something else? And that could be anything. It could be shame. It could be humiliation. It could be fear. It could be sadness. It could be depression. But it's a reoccurring emotional pattern that's continually working in your system. Maybe it's not continually available to your awareness, but it's certainly been there for a long time. It has a very particular energy. It has a very particular felt sense. It has a very particular frequency. It too will take you out of the game. It too will take you out of the now. It too will not allow you to be all of who you are, because of the energy in that wound is so difficult and heavy and difficult to manage. Now, what I want you to be very clear about is the difference between A and B. The difference between A and B is that A is specific to lack or less. And this is generic. This is wider. There's more detail in this. There's more information in this. Just to repeat, it could be shame. It could be blame. It could be a repetitive pattern of sadness that you just can't get out of. It could be a repetitive fear of humiliation. It could be a pattern that isn't specifically lack. So that's test B question 1. Test B question 2 is, do you have a fear of your emotional world? Do you have a difficulty? Do you have a severe resistance to what emotions move through you? Maybe not all emotion, but certainly the big ones, certainly the difficult ones. Do you find yourself in a tailspin, not knowing how to regulate, not knowing how to soothe, not knowing what to do, wanting to get away, resisting? And does any of that create these deep, difficult emotional patterns that incapacitate you from your work, stops you from putting yourself out there, stops you from rising up, stops you from serving your community better? So do you have a difficulty with your own emotion, and does that difficulty create these big swirling emotional patterns that keep you locked in? And the last part of that question is, test B is, do you use all that material against yourself? I shouldn't have this, I shouldn't be this, I shouldn't feel this. If I am a therapist, a coach, a practitioner, I shouldn't have any of this. Okay, and we're going to take another breath, and we're going to then move on to test C. Test C. Can you answer yes to any of the following questions. Do you have a current reoccurring pattern that means that you don't follow your word, that you have big ideas, that you'd love to do wonderful things, you'd love to do this, you have an idea for that, but you never follow through. You never keep your word and you never follow through, and you run across idea from idea and idea. And you are annihilating yourself because of that pattern. You are tearing yourself down because of that pattern. Do you have a tendency to put everybody else first? Do you have a tendency to put everybody else's needs first? And are you exhausting yourself from that? Are you burnt out and exhausted? Are you running patterns of martyrdom and can't get out of your own way in order to do whatever you need to do, whatever that is within your practice, within your business, within your building of your profile? Can you not get out of your own way? Because you're putting everybody else first. Are you caught in the trenches? Are you caught in the trenches of analyzing, preparing, making sure it's certain, making sure it's all fulfilled, making sure the I's are dotted, the D's are crossed, and then exhausted and not able to do anything from that place? Are you caught in those analytical trenches? And the final question in test C is, are you ruining relationships by your directness, your forcefulness, your controllingness? Is this a pattern that shows up? And of all of those questions, are you using those questions? Are you using those difficulties rather against yourself? Are you annihilating yourself for any of those? I shouldn't be this. I shouldn't be like that. I should be better. I should be more. Therefore, I am not who I say I am. Therefore, I am not enough. Therefore, I'm not. So we have just completed the test. It may not seem obvious to you, but I'm hoping it's beginning to show you some patterns that you are running. Now, what I'm going to do in the next video is I'm going to break those down. I'm going to go through the questions and tell you exactly what they mean and what they point to and what they show us, and it'll tell us exactly what you're holding. Now, before we jump on the results, what I do want to say to you is, if you've said yes to a lot of this, that is okay. That is quite normal. In my experience, for all of the therapists that are in our groups and all of the therapists that are in our collective, that is really, really normal. But what's different about this is that we get to work across a plan that differentiates what's happening, and then we can start to build out a plan to help ourselves that's very specific. Because up until now, it's like being throwing paint at the wall and hoping it'll stick. Now we're starting to get very specific about what the problem is, and then from that, build out a very specific plan. So if you've said yes to it all, it's fine. That's what I would see normally. That's what I would see across the board. And what we're not about to do here is we're not about to use this test to give us more imposter syndrome, because that's the pattern that we're trying to get out of. We now have some answers, and from that we'll have some plans that we can heal from. So on to the next video. I'll see you soon.